In this episode of Love Leadership, we're going to be talking about being leaders who are coachable. Welcome back for episode 6 of the Love Leadership podcast. We exist to build up leaders who love to lead and lead to love. My name is Michael Connell, and I'm here with Todd Doxzon.
Let's go, OC.
Come on, man. Hey, we hope you guys enjoyed the 5-part series on the 5 C's. We kind of had an ongoing joke, like maybe it's going to be 7 or 8
maybe
or
9, and guess what?
We've got a bonus. Oh, man. I think about Lee Corso, not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, we're not done. Today we're going to actually talk about the idea of being coachable.
Yeah.
And again, just to kind of set the framework up, again, remember as leaders, we want to develop the people around us. We want to identify who are the leaders that we can continue to empower to continue to move the mission and vision forward. Right. It can't stop with us. And so that's exactly what we need to do. We need to find those people. And we've been talking about the different character traits of those leaders. And one of the character traits that you and I have been talking about a lot recently is this idea of finding people who are coachable, right?
Well, it starts there because, man, you can try to invest in some of these young, amazing leaders, but you'd rather go hit your head against the wall sometimes because, you know, all you want to do to pour into them, it just stops and doesn't move anywhere. And, you know, we talk about this, you know, any leader becomes the lid to their organization if they try to do it themselves, but you got to surround yourself with the 5C, now 6C type people. And we brought it from Exodus 18, you know, here Moses is trying to run the show, the whole thing, you know, by himself. And he became the lid real quick and was burning out. And good thing that his father-in-law came up on the set and called him out, man.
He coached him up.
Think about it. And that's the thing. You know, Moses had to be coachable at that moment for him to be able to expand the organization, to be able to grow, to maintain health for the long term. And by God's grace, Moses took that coaching from his father-in-law, which again, it's your father-in-law, man. You know how many want to be told what to do by your father-in-law? Like, bro, you got your own family to run. Like, bro, this is mine. But he was humble, he was coachable, and man, as a result, the organization, the whole nation continued to grow and thrive as a result of him being coachable.
That's so good. And I want to stay on that for a second. It's interesting that we talk about how Moses was willing to be coachable, right? And he was called by God to be the leader.
That's right.
And so I think what you bring up is a really important point, specifically for those who are organizational leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs that are running their company, head coaches. What would you say to those leaders? I mean, how do you continue to have people in your life that will be coaching you up, that you'll be continuing to grow and get better with?
It's gigantic. We talk about this a lot, Mike. You can't be a great leader until you become a great follower. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't change. Even if you are the CEO, you're the lead of any organization, of any family. You want to be in a continual state of coachability. I was with one of my best friends who is the CEO of a huge organization, a very successful corporation here in the Midwest, just this weekend. And he kept on talking about how he's learning from some of the people that way down the org chart from him. And I just love it. I'm like, that's why you're in the position you're in, man. You maintain a posture of humility, coachability, is learning from all kinds of different people. And the fact of the matter is, if you're a great leader, you need to listen to people that are behind the scenes in the trenches.
That's it.
Because the minute you stop being coached by any of those, the minute you start losing grip, you know, of the organization, because they're the ones in the trenches, man.
Yeah,
and they're giving you real-time feedback. And so for you to be able to go, no, that's the way it goes. Well, it's going to be taken away sooner than you could think.
That's it. Yeah, they're the hands and feet of the organization, really, as they carry out the mission and vision. Well, I know that there's an interesting season in your life that you walked through where this principle, you really had to learn this, to walk it out. Can you tell us about that? Your time in Carolinas?
Well, I would start with actually first a statement or a phrase. I think, you know, for us to be coached by people we trust, people we believe in, people that are amazing and they have proven track records is one thing. It's a whole different thing when maybe you don't necessarily trust the leader or, you know, something shifted. And I'll tell you, my story is real simple, and it was a huge part of my leadership development, Mike. And it was way back in 2004, playing in the Arena League in Carolina. And we were in week 10 of a season. And me and my quarterback, his name was Matt Nagy. Some of you guys might recognize his name. And Matt was the quarterback. I was what we called the OS, so the offensive specialist.
Come on.
Which was a dream job. I mean, you just run around and score touchdowns. This is what you really did. You run routes. And Matt was the gunslinger, phenomenal quarterback, and we had a great time together. Our defense wasn't necessarily all that great. And so week 10, I think we must have been sitting at, 4-6, 3-7. And the owner made a decision to fire our head coach, and he ended up hiring our defensive coordinator as the head coach.
Come on.
So literally, so check it out. So like Matt and I were like in the top 5 probably statistically in the league. And the next day after he gets the head job, he brings Matt and I into his office, and he says, "Guys, I just wanted to let you know we're gonna set you down. We're gonna bench you." And Matt and I are kind of like looking at each other like, what? But it was really cool because I think it was God giving me an opportunity to really grow and being coachable.
Wow.
In a season, from someone that I didn't necessarily trust, I didn't necessarily have a ton of respect for at the moment. Now, over time, I got to really like this guy, and it was cool. But I think it was crucial for both of us to go through that. And the response, I think, was going to determine the next section, next season of the leadership that he was calling us to. And it was so cool because Matt and I were like, well, I mean, what can we control? We can control our attitude and our effort. That's it.
Yeah.
And so by God's grace, that next week, Matt was the scout team quarterback. I was like the scout team receiver, and we were getting these guys ready. And fast forward to week 16 was really cool because I was just faithful. Funny story, by the way. I went from the OS to the joke on the team was the HS. So the only time I got on the field was the hold for field goals.
Let's go.
So
come on.
they call me the HS, the holding specialist. You just jump over the wall, just kind of trot in, just hold for the field goal. Good. And then, run off. And, but you know what? That's what I could control. And by God's grace, maintain a good attitude, try to help the younger guy that came and took my job. But by week 16, that young guy had partied the night before of our game and wasn't really having the best game. So our quarterback literally on the first drive on 3rd down says the quarterback benched the young receiver and got the old vet, said, "Man, get over so I hopped over the wall, trot into the huddle, and he sent me deep and ended up scoring, 3-4 touchdowns that game. And it was on the road at Georgia. And I was a free agent at the end of that year. And who called in the offseason to sign me to another deal?
Incredible.
Georgia.
Incredible.
And it was in week 16 of that. And it was so crucial at that point in my life for God to grow me in just being coachable no matter what the circumstances. For whatever reason, sovereignly, that man was my leader. And I needed to submit to him and maintain a good attitude and great effort. And God would handle the rest. It's such a crucial thing for us to really understand.
It's interesting because as you're telling that story, I think about when we think about this idea of being coachable, it's directly connected to our willingness to be humble.
It's it.
Right? I mean, it's all humility is really what it comes down to. You know what I mean?
Well, all across the board. Think about, Mike, think about this right now. All the dads or all the husbands that are listening right now. We're called to lead our family. And I'm going to tell you right now, the key to it is humility. Mm-hmm. The problems happen in our marriages and our families when we think we got everything figured out and we become like a commando, and which I've done. I've had seasons of so much pride taking over in my marriage that it squelches my wife's, even desire to love me. My kids, they're not going to really bring a lot of feedback to me if I'm like, it's my way or the highway, kid,
That's it, yeah.
And so I've had to grow over the years, and God had to take me to the woodshed quite a few times to be, you got to stay coachable no matter where you're at organizationally if you're called to be a leader. It's
interesting because whether you're being coached or you're the one doing the coaching, on both ends of the spectrum, humility is key, because the reality is the person being coached, you're not in the leader's shoes. Leader, you're probably not in that person's shoes that you're coaching. And so just having that humility and trying to understand the bigger picture at play, because I think it's really crucial for us to move forward, because we want to create cultures where being coachable is a really key to the organization.
All over the place.
Because if you don't have it, you're going to have major issues, right? And that's where I kind of want to go next is what are some of the problems, that like if we're unable to be coachable, or if we're in an organization where being coachable is just not part of our culture, like what are some of the issues that we can run up against?
Well, you see a bunch of striving. You see a bunch of people trying to show off and prove themselves, and because it becomes striving, not like partnering together. Totally. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because when you have a culture of coachability, humility, you really are trusting ultimately that the big coach is going to call the shots.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're submitted to the leadership of the greatest coach, you're really settling in his sovereignty, and it frees you in the organization. But when that's not the case, from leader to leader, it creates like this weird competition, this striving, an uneasiness. Again, nothing wrong with healthy competition. We love it. I mean, that's really good stewardship, honestly, when you work your tail off and produce. I mean, that's good stewardship. But when it's from the wrong attitude of pride and I'm going to prove something, and I just heard a message recently about, when Jesus was challenged by his brothers to go to Jerusalem and start showing off all his miracles, and Jesus said, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm good in Galilee. That was the phrase that I heard. I'm good in Galilee. We're not out here. We don't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
Right. But we are going to be continuing to grow and steward the gifts that we've been given. But having an organization where we're humble, we're coachable at all levels, that's when it's great stewardship, but without the striving.
Totally. And you use the phrase early and often when it comes to whether it's confronting or we use the word coaching.
Right.
Early and often. Can you explain that to some of the people that are listening today? Because I think that's a really practical handle on how do we approach this idea of coaching the people around us.
Well, we learned a long time ago, and it's really uncomfortable, honestly, for a lot of leaders, me included, when I first started out in leadership, is if you really love someone, though, you're going to coach them. In fact, you coaching us in the weight room, right? You just yesterday, you gave us a coaching point where you gave us like 20 reps on something. By the way, that was terrible, but it was horrible. But you talked about how over time you start getting tired and you start like your rep becomes small. Mm-hmm. And what I like doing is I like looking around the circle when you're coaching. Because I'm like looking at it and going, okay, who are the people on the team that are looking you in the eye saying, yes, sir, thanks for that coaching. That was great. Or the person that's like, this guy's trying to tell me something again. Because to me, that determines something. And what you'll find, teams, organizations, all that kind of stuff, the person that just is always like has an excuse or doesn't want to hear it, they're going to be coached less and less and less. But the person that's like, man, thank you so much for pointing that out. I didn't even know I had a backside weakness in that area. Or man, thank you so much for making me aware of that and helping me, help equip me to really move forward. That's the type of person they're going to continue to be coached because it's in them. And it's tragic, though, because a lot of people that stay stubborn and prideful in that, they'll, what had happened, I'm on my 5th marriage.
Yeah.
Well, what's the common denominator in all 5 of those marriages? It's you, bro.
You. Yeah.
And organizations, well, I'm on my, 5th job in 3 years. And, what had happened is he wanted me to do this. He told me to do this. Brother, look in the mirror. There's got to be this transformation of humility and coachability to bring value to that squad and to continue to advance and mature.
Yeah, our inability to not embrace that is going to prohibit our growth, right?
It is.
I think back to a time when I was at Iowa State. It was Paul Rhodes had come in, 3rd head coach, while I was at Iowa State. Chris Ash was my secondary coach. He was just recently with the Rutgers as their head coach. And he sat me down after spring practice, had a terrible spring. And he was really brutally honest with me. Wow. I'll never forget it. It was one of the hardest meetings that I ever had at Iowa State because, he looked me in the eyes and basically said, you're probably not going to play on defense or contribute to the defense this coming season. I mean, that's what I needed to hear. It was an honest evaluation. He was coaching me for where I was really at in that spring. And I'll tell you what, at first it rocked me a little bit. So much so that I started having thoughts like, should I even stay here? Should I transfer?
Yep.
but again, settled in and really embraced that coaching point. And really because of that, it's what propelled me to then make the necessary changes and work that much harder at some of those weaknesses. And really that's in my season of life, that's where I really learned what this idea of being coachable looked like.
So let's think about this for Coach Ash. It probably wasn't the most comfortable thing for him he wants to go into that room and go, OC, great spring, man, you're killing it. I can't wait to see you, at safety and this and that. That would probably be way more comfortable for him as a coach, but he loved you so much and he wanted to continue to see you grow as a player.
That's it.
So he had to be brutally honest. Even though it wasn't necessarily comfortable, it was crucial for you at that moment. So that's on his side. And then on your side, you have free choice.
That's it.
You could have said, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I didn't have the greatest spring, but, this. And you could have had this angle of pride, right? And then what would have happened? Nothing, right? But if you would have been able to embrace that and say, golly, dude, that was rough.
That was rough.
But thank God that I had a coach that would get in my grill a little bit, coach me up, and God would give you a grace to embrace and really make some adjustments in your game.
I would have missed out on so much, man.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Fast forward 4 months later, and I'm starting at safety, earned a scholarship. Like those things,
they don't happen.
None of that would have happened. And so, this idea of being coachable is so crucial. Well, I want to finish with this. What would you say to those that are joining us today? Just how can we embrace this? How can we see impact in our organization? What would you say to maybe the up and coming leader on just how to embrace this idea of being coachable?
I think the number one thing for me was personal intimacy with God, man, if I'm really honest. And that's why it sounds maybe like a broken record, but the key to my victory was literally studying the scriptures every day from Genesis 3, like literally going on that Bible in a year plan starting in 2001 and just making space in my daily schedule as a non-negotiable. Because what it did, Mike, is it allowed me to, over time, see who God is, who I was, in light of who the creator of the universe was. It got me, because think about it, all of us humans think the world revolves around us and that we run the show. But over time, something shifts in your soul and you see yourself, man, God is God. He's created me. He's given me these gifts. He's given me this position. And over time, he humbles you. I mean, that's really the major thing. He gives you this gift of humility. And even if you don't, we're all in process.
Yeah.
But at least it gives you an opportunity to receive that correction, that coaching, that challenge in a grateful way as opposed to in a spiteful way.
Totally.
And so I would say that's a super practical thing. On our Love Church Global app, we have that, you literally hit read and it's like every day we just simply go through the word together and super helpful for us.
That's so good, man. That's a good way to end this episode. We have the choice. We can choose to be coached. We can choose to be humble,
that's right.
Or we can be humbled. I mean, the reality is circumstances are going to happen. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. We're just grateful to be on this journey with you. We're so honored that you would spend a few moments with us. Hey, please leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. It really is meaningful. And if you grab something out of this episode today, we would just ask you to please share that with your audience. We want to continue to create this community and see people impacted. And until we meet next time, go get better.